Hey, Heather, thanks for joining today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, you have such an incredible story. And it's one of those things where I don't want to get fixed on one little specific thing. I'm basically going to rattle off a couple things here, but you have had an incredible medical background as far as like your medical life path, your medical journey.
Mhm.
You have, they've written a Hallmark movie about you, which is insane.
Yes.
Super cool. And I think was it number one or something like that, or the most viewed?
It was the highest rated and most viewed Hallmark movie in their network history.
Okay, and we'll get into the name of that and stuff too, because I want you to elaborate on that as well. You've had a very interesting relationship tied to the medical, tied to this journey, this story, this life path. And before we start into that, I definitely want you to just start with your story.
Sure.
What's interesting too is we spoke prior to this, maybe a week or so ago,
Mhm.
and it was interesting because I almost, and this is going to really sound crazy to start a podcast out like this. I actually want to apologize to you because we were talking. Yeah, I know it sounds weird, but we were talking, and I said something along the lines of, let's talk about a few things and then tell your story later.
Mhm.
But what I realized that I got off, I wasn't trying to diminish your story. I felt like it's such a great story. I wanted to build to it. But honestly, there's nothing more important than your story. That's why we
Oh,
have conversations. That's why podcasts are like this. We have conversations about people. It's really that human experience
right.
and the human journey, the human path, and our learning process. And people can learn from the lessons that you've lived. So maybe they don't have to live them, or that identification that they're going through something maybe similar or different, but there's a parallel to it. So
Right. Right.
I want to
You, you don't have to apologize. I didn't think twice about it.
Oh, but I think it's important. We don't want to ever diminish anybody's voice, anybody's individuality and stuff.
Mhm.
And that's the essence of what talking together on the camera like this is.
Right.
And like I said, I genuinely mean it. I didn't mean to stifle that beautiful story. So
No.
I step out of the way a little bit here. And maybe should we start with maybe a little bit of the medical journey or
Sure.
a little further down?
Okay. Yeah. No, seriously, I didn't even think twice about that. Not at all. You don't have to apologize. Going through what I've been through, you build some thick skin. So little
Yeah,
things you
I
don't think
bet.
twice
I
about.
bet. Yeah, perfect. Let's start. So, how long ago is it? This I know you have a number of layers to it, and there was build
Mhm.
up and things like that. But maybe start at a point where it is somewhere in this is initiating of the medical aspect of your life and some of those things you face. Like, how long ago are we talking about?
Sure.
Maybe to put some context in.
Sure. So I was diagnosed about 10 and a half years ago with stage 4 liver disease, cirrhosis. A few months later, they said it was autoimmune hepatitis. So something triggered all this inflammation, which led to scarring and ultimately a point of no return, where my only option was to be put on the liver transplant wait list in Illinois. The transplant was a year after my initial diagnosis. It was a long time holding out.
Yeah, there's obviously there was a mortality tied to this, right? I'll just say it. I guess there's an essence that maybe you weren't even not supposed to be here. You know,
No,
you might not have been here.
no, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right though, because I always told the doctors, I'm not your typical patient. Most patients are scared and they don't want to know the full reality of what they're up against. And I'm like, do not sugarcoat anything with me. You better tell me everything, good, bad, and different, because I want to know what I'm up against. I want to know how hard I'm going to have to fight. And so, actually, when I was diagnosed, they thought, well, young, you don't have any pre existing conditions. Maybe we can reverse this damage. 3 months later, I went into acute liver failure, turned completely jaundiced. And at that point, they're like, no, your only option is transplant.
Well,
And they also said, based on my labs, my numbers, that I had less than 50% chance of living another 2 months.
holy cow. Yeah. So
And
that was a pretty short window. I guess we'll call it like an aggressive.
I was acute. They call it acute liver failure. So it came on, once I was diagnosed, it progressed very quickly.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, there was also another point too that you tied into. It was a forgive me if I say this wrong, like a non-alcohol related, because I know some people associate
Yeah.
alcohol to liver disease and stuff like that too.
Something that I was up against too, just being young. People stigmatize it and automatically think it's alcohol related. I had 4 liver biopsies. They can tell if it's drug related, alcohol, anything in between, rare genetic testing, hepatitis. They ruled everything out and it was non alcoholic fatty liver disease. And then, like I said, once I went into acute liver failure, University of Illinois Hospital, and then about 6 months later, Mayo Clinic in Minnesota also confirmed it was autoimmune hepatitis.
Oh my God. Yeah, with no real with at that point too, was there really like a I don't want to say like a why, how, what, but there really was no explanation of kind of the initiant of it or anything like that.
No, like, really the
Okay.
only because no one in my family has liver disease, it's not like it was this genetic thing, and I asked too, "Okay, everyone's shocked that I have this, I'm young, no pre-existing things," and they just said that something your body attacked itself. Something
Right.
happened. I think there's other things that looking back now, different things that I've learned and done a deep dive into my own research, like we had
Sure.
spoke gut health and
Yeah.
inflammation. I think there's
Absolutely. Which I definitely want to touch on your time today too. So I'll make sure that I bring that up
yeah.
again too. So after that, in that road, what was the kind of that next iteration? So you're on the list,
Mhm.
new liver transplant, which is a big, I can only imagine. It sounds like a really big deal.
Yeah.
And I guess, well, so then run through that then. I guess I don't want to give it away, but you obviously had a procedure.
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
So about 3 months after I was put on the list, I was progressing quickly, and they said, "We recommend you start looking for a living donor because your odds might be even better if you do survive the surgery." At the time, social media wasn't as big and they didn't have all these different resources. So my sister made a flyer and we went to fire departments, police stations, anywhere you can think of in social media, put the flyer up for someone to begging someone to get tested. I had many people get tested. The initial thing is like you have to be the right blood type. Then you can only have so much percentage of fat on your liver
Mm.
and all other sorts of testing. So December, I went to Mayo Clinic. The following February, I got a phone call that from a gentleman who overheard my cousin speaking that I needed a transplant. Ironically, he lived like 20 minutes from me at the time. And yeah, I got that phone call. Hey, going to be your donor. I'm a match.
An incredible, yeah. I couldn't
Gotcha.
even imagine the feeling like that, the shock and maybe disbelief.
Oh, all of the above for sure.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, I'm excited, but don't get too excited because
Sure.
until that
Yeah.
day actually comes, he could always change his mind.
Absolutely.
So that was February. The surgery was mid March. And we had met prior to the surgery. Our
Okay.
families had met. So my surgery was 12 hours long and little complications after, but I never dealt with any rejection. So
Sure.
that was the main thing.
Can I ask a technical question? Because I was never aware that you can do that with a living donor. I just something I had no idea about. So do they take a percentage or is it just how do they measure the viability or what's the body's capable of?
Yeah. So obviously, until I was put in this position, I didn't even know that the liver could regenerate. So that was news to me. So, yes, they study, and I don't know technically how they do this, but they study the donor's liver, the size. They look at that person's anatomy,
Sure. The
then
metabolism. They probably do
the
everything. It's full
size.
screening.
Yes, and the size of me. So actually, my whole liver came out, and I received 55% of my donors. And then within 3, 4 months, both of my donors and my liver grew back to full size.
Oh my God. I had no clue. That is fast. During while you're going through it, it doesn't feel fast.
No, but yeah, it
In the
was.
grand scheme of things, that's a really quick regeneration. I had no clue that the liver did that.
Mhm.
That's
So
incredible.
that
Yeah.
was fascinating.
Okay, which leads to some other questions, but I think when we start talking about gut health and liver health too, I'll bring some other more technical questions I have. But I want to keep going with these connection points and stuff. So you're on the road to recovery, so is your donor.
Mhm.
And then did you guys continue to communicate or contact or what was that like?
Yes, so soon after the transplant, we actually started dating and then got married.
Oh my gosh.
And the media went nuts. Of course, local
Yep.
man donates, stranger donates to woman in every headline you could
Yeah,
think
it
of.
makes for yeah, absolutely. Total
So,
clickbait these days.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But it was a whirlwind because you're still in fight or flight mode. I did not even start processing what my body just went through. There should be a rule where you can't date for
Yeah.
at least a year.
You're not of right mind or something or
You are not all there.
Oh my gosh, that's
So,
hilarious.
but yes, I went back to school full time, became an occupational therapy assistant, was planning a
Yeah.
wedding, healing because it takes about a full year
Okay.
recovery after transplant. And Steve Harvey had us on his show. So that was wild. And my thing really was when different people were reaching out to us was to educate about living donation.
Sure.
And myself, I didn't even know the liver regenerated. I didn't know it
Yeah.
grew back that quickly. So it's pretty fascinating. And I had so many people that learned from that. And then also, if they were struggling with liver issues or a family member, I would get messages from them because of your story. It's giving me hope. I'm going to
Yeah.
keep fighting. And as much as I was helping them, they probably didn't realize they were really helping me in the moment too,
Yeah, I
because
bet.
I was healing physically, but I had no clue what I was in store for healing more mentally and emotionally once you.
Yeah, there's no guidebook to that. There's no paint by numbers on, and I imagine too, if I may, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine there's so much buildup, there's so much emotion, there's so much stress, excitement, whatever versions of that for all that frenetic, all the weight of that building up to a point, and then you
Yes.
have this point, meaning this big surgery. And I guess on the flip side of that, and then obviously there's a road to recovery. Now you're in the identification of I'm going through some big surgery. Now there's the recovery, but then I guess there's just that continued longevity because at some point, like we said before, at some point, I'm sure you had the survival aspect of maybe I won't make it through this. Maybe I won't see another year
Mhm,
or beyond too.
mhm.
So then it's, oh, wait, I'm going to be around for a long time. And obviously you're a fighter, which you implied. So
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. Now I really have to do this. Holy cow.
Yeah, no, and you nailed it. Like, you're absolutely correct because it's all this buildup of, okay, gotta stay healthy enough to be able to have the transplant surgery because if you get too sick, your numbers are too bad, they won't do it because it's too big of a risk, you're gonna die on the table. So, it was just, okay, make it to the next day, make it to the next day, then searching for a donor, the buildup of that, and then finding the donor, then the day of the surgery, and like you said, afterwards, and I think that's where I struggled. I know I struggled mentally and emotionally afterwards because there's all this buildup to that day. And then, okay, you get the transplant and everyone's happy. Obviously, I'm very happy and very grateful to be alive, like not taking away that. And because on the other end, there's people who are dying every day waiting for a transplant. So there's a bit of that guilt there too. But then,
Mhm.
okay, you
Yeah,
go
survival
home.
skills. Wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, and then you go home and you don't feel as safe and secure as you do in the hospital, so there's that
Yep.
aspect, and then it's, "Okay, now what?" It's like this big, like, climax, "Okay, got the surgery, and now I am alive. Okay, where do I go from here?" I've been in survival mode. I didn't even plan for, "Okay, what am I gonna do now?" And my point before is everyone is happy and, "Oh my gosh, it's a miracle," and it
Yeah.
is, but I really struggled with, "How come I'm not happy right now? How come I'm struggling so bad?"
Yeah.
Because of just the recovery, the side effects of the medicine,
Sure.
how I was still feeling pretty crummy. I'm like, "Is this all cracked up what it's supposed to be?"
Right.
It really made you question some things.
Yeah, that survival guilt, that's a really interesting aspect of that. I can completely see that now because there are people that don't clearly mortality is
Mhm.
happening. It's the ends are coming all the time, or people in hospice, or people waiting for those. But what's I'll say on a positive side too, now you're somebody who survived an actual transplant, which is incredible. So now have you been able to, you're obviously sharing the story with me. I know you've been on other podcasts
Mhm.
and clearly you've had a bit of a runway since that.
Mhm.
So now you do get to, I guess there's multiple purposes that probably come out of this, I'm sure. Some of the purpose of life and some of the, you get to share that, you get to be strong for other people.
Mhm.
You get to be that advocate or that light of information and
Absolutely.
sharing. Is that on the top of your list? Is that part of why you're out sharing
Yes.
these things to
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because for a while, when I was struggling post transplant, I'm like, I'm supposed to be grateful, and I am. And I'm here for a reason. I know, like, I was given this second chance for a reason, but what is my purpose? I felt like stuck for a long time. And what I realized, this is probably close to 3 years ago now, was I was denying my reality. I didn't realize it at the time, but We all envision like how life is supposed to go
Sure.
chronologically. You go to college, you meet somebody, you get married, you have I always wanted a boy first, so then the girl could have an older brother. Like you have this whole
I'm
plan
sure.
in
Yeah,
your
you've been
head.
mapped out.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I won't go off on a tangent with this. That's some of the programming of the societal. You go to school, undergrad, grad, and you work your way through, and then you get a job, and then you couple off, and then you get a house in the suburbs, and the 2.2 kids, and the dog, and the cat, and everything that goes with that. And so there's an identity that
Mhm.
for you, I'm again implying whatever, assuming something here, but that really got stripped or maybe even destroyed and shattered.
Yes, your whole
And
identity or what you thought things were
yeah,
going to be like. So I felt like after a while, I came to this realization that, okay, Heather, you lost your job during COVID. You're sitting at home, you're in your head too much, and you're getting depressed and getting to a point where you're no longer seeing your potential. I'm second guessing myself. Why did I get a second chance? What is my purpose here? And through that, I realized that, okay, my life right now, 3 years ago, may not look or be what I would like it to be. But if I continue to deny it and just sit here and watch my sister move forward with her life, all these other people keep moving forward despite things, years from now, I'm still going to be here and it's not going to change anything.
yeah,
So I just came to this realization that I'm the only person who can take the steps to change anything at this point. And
yeah,
that's when I realized too, okay, your purpose is you're a survivor and being sick can be a very lonely thing. So kind of part of my mission is to share my story so other people know they
yeah.
aren't alone.
Did you think in part of those, some of that kind of identification we were talking about, do you feel
Mhm.
like, and maybe at different stages, do you feel like people looked, and this is going to sound maybe mean, but I wanted to hear how you absorbed this or maybe how you
Sure.
reacted to this. Is, you feel like people looked at you as like broken or like a wounded bird or, you know what I'm saying? Like you
Yeah.
put you in a certain category and just stuck you there. And then that's what you are. You're this persona of, I don't know, the sick girl and the
Right.
one who's went through the surgery. And it's what an
Aw.
extraordinary. Do you feel like there was some of that interaction with other people?
Yeah. No, you totally nailed it. And not everybody, but I
Yeah,
definitely did feel like that. Even to be honest, and my parents didn't mean it, but they were traumatized in their own way. They almost lost
absolutely.
me and they don't want to lose me again. They want me to stay healthy. And so I felt like for a while after they probably babied me in a way.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And
That's
if I
it.
was gonna do things around the house, wash the bathroom floor, pick something heavy up, I did and finally I turned to him like, "Dad, I'm not an invalid, like, I have to do
Yeah.
this myself, like, you have to allow me to build up my confidence again, because
So
with
that,
that
yeah.
keeps knocking down your confidence and self-esteem and, "Oh, what am I truly
Yes.
capable of?"
That's
And
what I was
then
gonna get into. I bet you second guessed yourself
oh,
because your
totally.
surroundings were looking at you were like you were fragile, and you can't
Yes.
help but absorb that. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And
The oh, go
doctors
ahead.
too, even saying that a certain percentage of people with liver transplants never go back to work full time. When you're getting it from the medical end and then
Absolutely.
at home as well, and my parents meant the best for me. And then I dealt with chronic pain for a while too, and so sometimes my dad more so would be like, "Oh, I feel bad for you. Oh, I just wish you could wake up and you weren't so stiff," or, "Oh, you feel better." And again, after a while, I was like, "Dad, you gotta stop this. I don't wanna hear again, 'Oh, I feel bad for you.'" I said, "Do not feel bad for me." I'm
Toughen up,
like
buttercup. That's all.
exactly. I'm like, "There's a reason for this. It's making me stronger. It's gonna make me more capable and be able to
Yeah,
take on more
absolutely.
things. Someone
Converting
feels
this
sorry."
into the strength, into that other side of that. And I honestly, that's a really fascinating scenario too with the parents and the doting because there's a maternal energy to want to protect you and
Yes,
dote over you, but then keep you in the nest, the surrounding and the bubble wrap of sorts, almost
yes,
a
like bubble
older
yeah,
version of a helicopter parent instead of the toddler. Now it's it's my adult daughter. I'm going to put some bubble wrap around her, but it's obviously out of love.
mhm,
And they were traumatized, absolutely. But
yeah,
it is a very interesting response because it's almost the identification of the fragile, broken girl, if I may, instead
yes.
of the
No, you're absolutely right.
individual healing woman who you are, person, and what does that rise and ascension process
Mhm.
look like? That's a fascinating thing. And So you alluded on it is through COVID. I'm sure you were just sitting there, probably staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning and being like,
Oh, yeah.
what is this? What do I do? And where do I go from here?
Yeah.
And is that a challenge? And to have there really is a power in other people telling you that you might, they're giving you the worst case scenario. Like you were saying in the beginning, give me the worst case scenario. I want to know all my options. And I agree. I'm the same way too.
Mhm.
But after a while, if you hear people, this could happen, that could happen.
Mhm.
I would
It's
imagine it's got to wear at you. It wears down
it
your
does.
perception of what's even possible. Because again, you have a very rare thing. I don't know
Mhm.
anybody else that I've heard of this, but that
Yeah.
path isn't like you can get in a room with a whole bunch of other people that did it and look at
Right.
them. They'll be like, "Oh, no, it's no big deal." You might, I don't know, maybe it is a big deal.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
what, like, onto what you were saying was when I was struggling during COVID and things like that, I would look back and be like, okay, how was I so strong leading up to the transplant? And even with them telling me, okay, this is your these are the odds against you, basically. And I laughed, literally laughed, and was like, I'm not going anywhere. And I didn't listen to anything that the doctor said and just kept telling myself it wasn't if I was going to get a transplant, it was just a matter of when. So I'm
Yeah.
like, how was I able to have that resilient, tough mindset going through that? And then afterwards, I fall apart. So it was like I had to somehow gain that same kind of strength I had fighting for my life. And I'm like, okay, now I just need to transfer it. I'm fighting for my life in a different way
Mhm.
in order to move forward and make something of myself now. Like I didn't go
Yeah.
through all this for nothing.
Interesting. Because I think we do this, and I'm going to dial out just
Yeah.
non-specific to what you are, but it's more just that general thought process of kind of the fear of success or being fixed on a goal so heavy and it's careful what you wish for type of thing, or just you achieve that goal and it's now what?
Mhm.
And I think so much of it too is that sometimes it's not exactly related to what we're talking about with yourself, but might have some money there. But I've talked about this
Yeah.
before with kind of the fear of success. Some of it is that responsibility. Oh,
Mhm.
man, I did it. Now I own it and I have to live with it. I have to live up to it. And I told
Mhm.
everybody I do it. Now I'm on this proverbial stage of life and now I have to thrive within it. And now you're like, the weight of that, we'll call it that success or that goal or
Mhm.
that achievement and
Mhm.
reaching that. What's a pinnacle point is not really the peak of the mountain. That's not really the summit. The summit is at age 130. That's like that you survive, like beyond
Right, right.
survive and stuff. So yeah, I can see that because that type of thing ties into so many other aspects of life.
There's
Very
probably
interesting.
some I know for a fact on my end too, because over time, hearing these different things, like I said, like your self-esteem, your confidence, what you truly believe you're capable of. Oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought there. Where was I
Yeah,
going with that?
even some of the self worth too that's built in there.
Yes.
Just your value of the perception of
I know what I was
deserving
gonna
and
say about I know what I was
yeah.
gonna say about almost like some like self-sabotage in a way too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of the anxiety, like, knowing, "Okay, Heather, you're here for a reason," but then, okay, now you have to take action to do so and not
Yeah,
blame it on anxiety or you're tired or you're in pain. This is no different than any other day. So
yeah,
stop reinforcing the negative self-talk. That's something I had to change over
yeah.
time.
No, and and to dial it out again is we all struggle with that in
Mhm.
different aspects of our life. That's
Yeah.
very
Abs
relatable. It's the
Mhm.
infinite games and the finite games. Like a finite game has a goal and then like a surgery or procedure. There's a hard line to that, but the infinite one is it's every day. It's showing up. It's doing
Mhm.
the little things. It's investing in our minds, bodies, our spirit, our souls, and those are the silent small tasks that are
Yep.
cumulative, and those are only for us. We have to do those. So there's a big responsibility there, but they tie into the bigger observable world
Uh-huh.
around us and that all-consuming aspect. So yeah, the weight of that really what we're getting back to where you're at with that. Without lingering there, you're obviously alive. You're obviously out. You're building right now. You're sharing. You're building your bigger perspective at this point. Things we talked to in our previous conversation of this episode, but
Mhm.
also too, I know something that's near and dear to your heart based on your past is things like gut health, liver health, of course. Diving into a little bit of that aspect of it and
Sure.
then I do want to touch on the relationship. Is that all right too?
Sure.
Touch.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I'm open.
Let's start jumping back into the relationships. You and the donor ended up getting
Yeah.
married. You said Maury Povich or no? I'm
Steve
sorry.
Harvey.
Steve Harvey. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So Steve Harvey, you had mentioned, I think you were just on a few different news channels and how did the Hallmark thing come about? Because that's pretty cool. The
Right.
ancillary outcome is in your life to have a Hallmark movie written about you. Did they approach you? Did a writer approach you first and then they sold the rights, or what was it? Just, it sounds like a
Yeah,
cool story. Let's make a movie.
yeah, it was wild when I got the phone. So they called me, and on my caller ID, it showed up Hallmark, and I'm like, this has got to be a joke. Like, who's
Yeah.
Hallmark? But no, it was Hallmark, and I believe I'm trying to think back. I think it was a writer for Hallmark,
Okay.
and yes, they had asked for the rights to our story to make it into a Christmas movie. It came out in December of 2018, but they had contacted us, I think it was like 2 summers before that, to
So do they do a
help
bunch of
support.
interviews to really document the actual story versus what was it? I don't know if there was a much with the variant. Obviously, it's not the
Yeah,
same. The premise is there, but clearly they
yeah,
took
like, Hallmark has to be very happy, and they have
yes.
their always a
I
happy
I
ending.
hate to give it away, but the movies are very predictable. I
They're
mean,
small town country girl going to the city country.
there's only a handful of tropes that they use in all the movies.
So
But for real, did they interview you? I'm really fascinated by that. Did they? It was their whole process. Obviously, a ton of legality, of course, and
yes,
is
we
talk
had to get
about it or
lawyers.
anything too?
I think we had a contract for 2 or 3 years where, like, the rights to the story was theirs. At this point, I can talk and say whatever I want,
Yeah,
but
you couldn't even
we
do
did
interviews
have
about it.
yeah, we did with a couple of the writers and the producer, because when I had agreed to it, I said, "I know you guys, like, run your movies a certain way, but I want the story to be as close to the real deal as possible. I know you gotta make it cutesy and add little things in, but the main storyline, I want it as close to the real deal as possible if I'm gonna agree to this." So they said that was fine, and that was in the contract and everything, and so we did do a lot of interviews, and it was funny because when the movie did come out, they have me like, I'm making Christmas cookies, like the annual Christmas whatever bake, and then I'm making Christmas wreaths. So I don't know how many times I had strangers and family friends, "Hey, do you
Uh,
really make wreaths?" No, I'm the least artistic person. That is one of the things that is not true.
Should have come up with a whole wreath line. You missed your opportunity on that.
I know I should have started learning how to make them. I probably would have made some money.
Yep.
Yeah, that was fascinating. They flew us to Canada where they filmed it. And so I got to meet Amy Teagarden, who played me. And it was like really surreal because for the movie, they kept my name, they kept my sister's name, my parents' names, my donor and his mom. So we're on set and they're saying Heather and Ashley and Kathy and Bill. This is just bizarre. But yeah, very surreal experience because how many people have a movie made about them?
Yeah,
And I feel
absolutely.
like it was cool because in a way, I guess you look at it as a sad thing, like you said, having to go through a transplant. And actually, now that I bring that up, the producer had told us that they weren't even sure. They had to get all these approvals and convince people to actually do the movie
Yeah,
because it was a little not your typical happy story.
sure, sure. Yeah. No, I
But
had
I feel
just an
a
edge.
lot of times
There's an edge to it for sure.
yeah, and then ironically, it was the biggest premiere they ever had, so so you guys just gotta stick with me.
Exactly.
Told you it'd work.
Yeah. It's an incredible story because it's definitely not, well, in this sense, with the Hallmark movie, it's not boy meets girl and there's a little bit of strife. This is the base premise is on a life or death
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, exactly.
So I know there was a
Sure.
little bit of I don't want to say dark end about the relationship that
Mhm.
ended up ending your personal relationship.
Yes, yeah, it did. I feel like I said, you shouldn't be able to date after a traumatic thing, but besides that, I came to realize that what I thought I felt for him, I thought it was true love. I thought, wow, going through this medically and he's gonna stick by me no matter what, and me for my medical ailments and things like that. I soon learned that it was more of this immense sense of gratitude for what
Mm,
he did for me.
okay.
That feeling of I didn't feel like I had to pay him, like I owed
Sure.
him, but I definitely confused what I thought was love with, "Oh my gosh, you saved my life," this
Okay.
gratitude.
Interesting. So the connection wasn't the build of kind of that love or mutual, I don't want to say mutual respect because I don't know the exact relationship. It was that it is interesting when you say it's in that gratitude window because there is power in that clearly with the
Mhm,
from that connection point.
mhm,
And
mhm,
yeah, that's really interesting that you guys did. I don't want to say that it lasted as
mhm,
long as it did, but
mhm.
that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's another life lesson. What can you do?
I would say the only other thing too I was going to say is any relationship, it's generally after a while, it's you're not the same person. So when
Mhm,
you met that person, let's just call this,
mhm.
forget the we're in such a, and that's to your point, is you're in such a traumatic state to start
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
So you, in, by the time years later or whatever
Mhm,
the time horizon is on that,
mhm.
you are a completely different human being.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, you
that's
can't.
so true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
completely. Looking back, I'm just like, even now looking back to that time period, the transplant and then the marriage and school, it feels like it's somebody else's life. When I look back,
yeah,
it doesn't even feel like that was me. I feel there's that saying where you shed your skin 1,000 times before you truly feel alive. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
believe like who your soul truly is. I'm like, wow, yeah, I've felt that by the age of 30.
Yeah, those are the seasons of life, and they
Mhm,
definitely, I think, for many of us, and there's those ones that are true, they're very deep and traumatic. For I believe the people that ask for great things in life, however it comes out, whether it's the phoenix and you burn to a crisp and have to
mhm,
rebirth again, or
mhm,
and whatever category that is, if it's in love or money or health, and sometimes it connects to
mhm.
all of them. It sounds like you really hit
It
the
all.
trifecta there. It was health, it was love, it was money. It was just like you hit everything in that window. And
Yeah.
so we all do those. And I would imagine too, I can only imagine the disassociation or I want to say disconnect. Maybe that's not fair because I don't want to assume anything, but like
Mhm.
the person you are today is completely disconnected from that person that you were probably just even a few years ago.
Yeah, it's a really weird transformation, but I also feel like that even though I wouldn't no one would wanna choose to have a liver transplant or go through all these things, I really feel like it was almost a necessary thing, or
Yeah.
I was going off on a wrong path, and that path was stopped because I wasn't listening, or I was going down the wrong road. And I feel like our paths are already paved for us. I have a strong faith. I believe in God. And sometimes my parents always tell me how you have to learn the hard way. And it's absolutely true.
Some of us do. We know that in different aspects. It's just sometimes I'm like, "Ah, I want change. And then it just hits me upside the head in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I'm like, unfortunately, I need to be hit in the head with a brick before something changes or I realize something or, whatever. But I feel like everything happens for a reason. We might not like that reason. We may not
Yeah.
never understand it or even see why that happened. But I truly believe like it was meant to happen to get to where I am today in order to help and educate other people
Yeah.
and get
And
me back on the
really,
right track.
absolutely. And really, you can only have done it through that experience.
Yeah.
You know, there was no other path other than through the
Mhm.
pain to
Mhm.
learn and to share and to be able to give that to that next array of humans receiving that on how the next
Mhm.
it'll
Mhm.
be really cool to see how kind of your story continues to develop because how it's received is one thing but it's who you show up as and who you how
Mhm.
you're giving it at this point nobody can take that away. And you got the beat down, burned to a crisp,
Yeah.
and now that can be harnessed into the strength. And even the association, of course, there's the physical, of course, there's the love and everything. But I would call this the lighter side of your story of your parents doting over you and hitting that and being like,
Mhm.
getting those reminders. And you needed those reminders. I
Mhm.
say this as the general you, is the royal
Mhm.
you in a sense, but we need those little reminders to like chip away at us and finally be like, nope, I'm good. So
Mhm.
obviously, there's probably, I would hope, there's a deep gratitude for your father in that story too, because without that, you
Yeah.
might have stayed in that little bit of a lower level
True.
frequency.
No, I love my parents to death, and they were so strong, and I wouldn't be here without them, and they've been so supportive, and after the divorce, had to move back home with mom and dad.
I'm sure that was tough on the ego too.
Oh, yeah. That's all part of the plan. Keep telling
It
yourself
is.
that.
It is. Yeah, and you can't see it either, but I'd say that so much of it comes through those pains. I don't want to digress into this story for a second, but I was in a meeting and they were talking about depending on other people's genius and other people's talents to prosper.
Mhm,
And there is a sense of
mhm,
people that there is a monetary success that some people do on the backs of others. And I think that
mhm,
there's people that came here to truly experience. And there's no better or less than. I'm not trying to judge the person that I was talking about, but it made me recognize too that I think that there's people that come to this life plane, this life experience to be a titan, not stand on the shoulders of other giants. I personally I don't want to stand on somebody else's shoulders to learn these. And it hurts when you're in those dark times. I don't want to be there. I'm sure you didn't want to be there. It
Right.
sucks. It feels like it's never ending. How do you look up and your eyes just get knocked onto your back and over again? The people that do truly rise as their own titan are the ones that are
Mhm.
going to make differences in this world. They do so and stuff.
No,
Believe that.
I absolutely agree, and I think it's great to have, like, mentors and coaches to help guide you, but I feel like if you truly want to get to your full potential or push your potential to see, like, sky's
Yeah.
the limit, you have to do that on your own in a sense.
Yeah.
You can't
You you really
it's gonna
do.
take longer, it's gonna be harder, you're gonna be broke, you're gonna be like, "Oh
I
my
agree.
gosh, am I ever gonna make it?" But I keep telling myself that when I'm hitting a wall or struggling or whatever, it's okay. I've listened to way too many people and podcasts where this is the point where most people give up. This is the
Yeah.
point where most people are like, oh, maybe I should just do that 9 to 5 job, or maybe I could be a W 2er and
Yeah.
go that route. But I'm like, the 1%, 2%, 5% of people that can push through those times where it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, those are the
Yeah.
ones that are going to make a great change in society. And I'm like,
Agreed.
again, I'm here for a reason and I've been through worse. I can keep pushing. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I 100% agree. I think there is something about that experiential and versus somebody just telling you or coaching or mentoring. I really like that you brought that up, but we could go on a whole long aspect about that. Maybe if we do another episode together, we'll talk about some of those learning aspects. And so I do want to touch on some of the health as well too. Again, the gut health and the liver. When we first spoke, you taught me something too. You said something about the liver itself has 500 functions. Do I remember that correctly? Or
yeah, no,
500
you're
benefits or
absolutely right.
something.
Yes,
Okay.
500 different functions.
Okay. And it touches into everything digestion, metabolism, circulation.
Medication.
Elaborate.
Yeah,
Teach me.
so I never realized how much the liver did, and just from doing my deep dives and speaking more with chiropractors, integrative health practitioners, functional medicine doctors, looking at the body as a whole more, because I struggled with, okay, getting this diagnosis, but then not really getting an explanation of, okay, how did I develop this?
Yeah.
Being told that you are going to be on anti-rejection medicine that suppresses your immune system for the rest of your life. That way, your body doesn't reject your liver. And also that this could happen again to your new liver.
A counterintuitive aspect to it, meaning that the liver's, your immune system's down and that liver, it's almost fighting. Those two things are
Yeah.
contradictory. Is that okay?
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. I struggled with the fear of, oh my gosh, can't go through this again. But then what can I do to prevent it? And I never really got keep taking your medicine. Oh, drink enough fluid,
I see. So you did
diet.
a deep dive, didn't you? You're like, I want to see what's,
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
I'm like, I'm the annoying patient that's like,
Oh, what?
"You're not gonna tell me, I'm gonna figure it out myself." So,
Right.
through that, I've learned that the integrity of your gut is
Okay.
so crucial to your immune system, to your liver health. Looking back, I had leaky gut. So, the tight junctions in your stomach that keep in the good bacteria and the bad things out, they start to open up. And when that happens, you have bad bacteria, yeast, whatever, that's now getting into your bloodstream where it shouldn't
Mm,
be. And it just keeps recirculating. Over time, this causes chronic inflammation. And as far as the liver, that chronic inflammation starts to cause scarring. And so it just connected the dots with different things as far as gut health, digestion, food sensitivities, metabolism, like you said, and detoxification being a huge one with the liver
yeah.
pathways.
Which ties into, I'm sure it ties into energy, it ties into sleep patterns.
Oh,
I'm sure it ties into our ability to, even as far as exercise or maintaining muscle growth, just probably
yes.
touch everything. I would imagine
Yes.
oxygenation. I'm sure it touches, and there's nothing that it doesn't touch.
Yeah,
Um,
like you said, brain fog, focus, ability to keep muscle, The energy is a huge thing.
Sure,
Right.
bone density is
Yeah,
probably just going
another
on.
one that's affected. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess to doing it, you did that deep dive into. Did you obviously explore? Because you were a nurse or you were.
I started in nursing school. I had to stop when I got sick, but I was a nursing assistant, and then I became a occupational therapy assistant.
Okay, so you have a medical background in
Yes.
your past. You've
Mhm.
explored Western medicine. Did you explore Eastern medicine? Did you explore alternative health, holistic health? Did you just run the
Yes.
gamut? Which is cool. And the reason I asked is I just want to understand, are you open? Some of it is just having an open mind and the exploration of that and asking the questions. Whether whoever believes what, where, when, how, or even what you
Right.
come to find out yourself through the discovery process, I
Right.
think just asking the questions and exploring these things is so
Right.
important and integral for people. I think people can be closed minded or closed off to
Mhm.
anything out of the norm.
Oh, I agree, absolutely, and
Yeah.
I was just because I was forced to be, I was very Western medicine before, because when I did get my diagnosis, there was no other option. So, okay, this is what I had to do, and I went along with it, and probably up until 3 years ago, I wanna say, I started to have health issues again, not with the liver, but I went to 12 different specialists at the University of Illinois, and nobody could figure out what was wrong with me, and I was just being shuffled, and it almost gave me PTSD in a way because that's what was happening before I was diagnosed with the liver issues. So I was like, oh no, we're not doing this again. And that's what kind of pushed me to start looking into other things, because I'm like, you get to a point where it's okay, if these big specialists can't figure it out, what's the harm in looking into other things?
Yeah.
And that's exactly when I started, and I feel like Western medicine saved my life.
Absolutely.
It
And there's 100% a place for it. There's no doubt, especially things escalate to a certain point. Then you get into what's preventative, but then there's
Mhm,
also just way
mhm,
of life and what we put into our
mhm,
bodies and how we conduct and that's a
right,
much bigger subject overall. I ask all these questions too, because I'm not anti anything. It's just posing the questions and the exploration and the educating yourself and of all influences, even if you go down a path and decide, not really sure,
yeah, right, right,
explore. The one thing that I feel like I've observed, not from the medical industry, but one thing I've observed is I would say like a silo or partitioning. It seems like there's so many specialists, and
mhm,
whether it's a good, bad, or ugly thing, I don't know. But my interpretive view from my seat is that it's some of it seems too bad, but because it's like there's a hand specialist, there's a foot specialist, there's a this specialist and that specialist, and there's all these specialists. And the only reason I say it is because, like in business, if everything is in silos, people aren't talking. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, and
yeah,
there's no connectivity. So, and we're a system. We're a system within
right.
systems.
Everything works. Yes, you said there's different systems, so they have the different specialists, but if the specialists aren't communicating and making these connections, then they're not looking at the body as a whole. One thing starts
Absolutely.
affecting the other. So you need that communication.
I
I
would
feel
imagine.
like Western medicine saved my life, but alternative
Yeah.
or Eastern medicine has helped to improve and maintain my health. And I feel like you said, like society as a whole, sometimes I think people are too closed minded because we've been conditioned to be more, our healthcare more reactive.
Yeah.
So you get symptoms and you get a diagnosis and now you're on a medicine and okay, what do we do from here? Instead of, like you said, more of a preventative or proactive way where, hey, let's try to do some things just lifestyle wise, exercise, eating better, cutting different lifestyle activities out, smoking, drinking, to prevent things to getting to a point of no return.
Yeah,
And that's what
absolutely.
I'm looking at more.
And not necessarily clicking that easy button of just taking a pill and continuing to take a pill. And I
Yes.
think many of us have had health experiences and stuff. And when I had some heart stuff about a year and a half ago, and
Mhm. Oh,
one of
yeah.
my big
Right.
things is I don't want to be medicated for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
So it's just a me thing. And because
Okay.
there is in my ecosphere, it did alter
Mhm.
how I felt. It did alter my state. So preventative, and I don't have time to go into that story, but so I
No,
think,
I agree.
yeah,
If there's a way to, I feel like sometimes medicine, like, it might initially help, but then it starts the side effects of that, and then
yeah.
you're dealing with the side effects.
And then you're chasing the
Correct it
dragon
naturally.
after that. Yeah, and then it's this and it's that and stuff. There's a dependency on it too, and your body becomes conditioned to it or immune to it
Yes.
or whatever version of that is. So you're
Mhm.
changing your
Good person.
pathophysiologies of that stuff. So I think because we're running out a little bit of time here,
Yeah.
I've been having a blast. I
Yes,
think
thank
for
you.
yourself too, a couple different things. One is you are really providing education on donor health education and really
Mhm.
putting yourself out there and building your personal brand. And now, is there a next step for you, or is it just an iteration and a building process, or where are you at with this next version or iteration of your life? Is that a big question, or
I'm
awareness health? And
yeah. I'm working on building my brand right now. I have a website being built, did my branding photo shoot finally. So just trying to tie ends up there, but also like big picture wise, I would love to start speaking on stages or speaking wherever just to bring awareness and to remind people that like yes, the doctors they have the medical experience and they have the paper, but you know your body best. And it's okay to advocate for yourself. It's okay to
ooh, that's
go a
great.
different route, to get a second opinion, because that's something I struggled with speaking up for myself. I want to continue to spreading the word that way. And also, I would love to eventually even get in front of doctors, even my own doctors that I had in the past liver team, and just different things that I have learned that I feel would help their current liver patients, where, something simple like Epsom salt baths at night, where you can get Epsom salt at the dollar store. It's not going to cost the patients any more money or the doctors. And it just helps the body naturally detox.
Sure. And
Yes. So just different things,
heavy
that
metals,
I've
and there's a lot to that.
yep, huge, which, yeah, it wasn't addressed with me. So just different things that on a bigger scale, I would love to get in front of some doctors and
I I wanted to jump on one thing you said too, because to be an advocate, you said advocate for yourself, right? Was that, I quote that
mhm.
kind of right?
Yes.
That's incredibly powerful. That right there is you build a, I don't want to say build a whole career because I'm not trying to say that, but I'm
Mhm.
just saying that's an incredibly powerful position or platform to build from. Be an advocate, have agency. Don't forget it's your
Absolutely.
body. This is your life. Don't allow some of it, you got to go with some things, but some of it is not
Right.
necessarily go with the flow, but make sure that you're educated and you're exploring when
Right,
asking.
and I think we had mentioned you have these gut feelings for a reason. Even though I kept getting, "Oh, your labs are normal. Oh, your scans are normal." I'm like, "No, something is not normal."
Yeah, let's talk about that quick because that right there, having the agency, being an advocate, that is a
Mhm,
huge power right there. And I think really helping people to recognize that
mhm.
is important. I'm not
Yeah,
dictating what to do, but if that's something you start to do, that's amazing
yeah.
because people really need to feel empowered by that when it comes to medical.
Mhm.
Anybody who doesn't have medical background, or if they very overly specialized and
Right.
maybe don't know about other aspects or other, parts of the
Mhm.
body. I can't speak for anybody else, but there's many of us that don't know.
Right.
There's confusion out there. There's a lot of information. When you go to Dr. Google,
Good
there's
luck.
yeah, it's good, bad, and ugly. There's you don't even know where to, I would imagine.
And that's the thing too, I think, is the fear in
Yeah.
first of all, if people don't have the medical background or the education to ask certain questions or to speak up, and it's like the fear of getting a diagnosis, you're just like, "Okay, what do I gotta do?" And I'm not
Yeah.
saying doctors are leading you in the wrong direction, but at the same time, you have to listen to your body and educate
Well,
yourself.
they also have protocols. They have to be careful what they say and stuff too. And I
Right.
blame any of that either. That's just system and stuff. Yeah, but and I want to touch on one more thing too because you brought up the gut feeling and stuff like the working on the gut and the gut health too. And that's the material world we eat, and that gut is it's its own brain. It has its own the instincts. Everything is there. Listen to that instincts. Listen to those gut the gut responses because it really does
Yeah.
know even if
Mhm.
you're even if your brain doesn't. And that's
Yeah.
not, I know it may
Yeah.
sound weird, but it's true.
No, it is. It's like 80% or more of your immune system is actually in your gut, like
I've
the
heard
good
that.
bacteria and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I forget the statistics. I think it's 90% of your serotonin is actually produced in your gut. So we look at the mental health of the country right now
Wow.
and different things. And I forget, I think it's 50% of your dopamine also is produced in your gut. So the better
Interesting.
more populated of good bacteria and the integrity of your gut, the better that it is, it really affects your mental health as well, which
Wow.
is
Okay.
interesting. So that gut brain
Cool.
connection.
Yeah, the brain connection is absolute. Yeah, there's an absolute power there. And I had
Mhm.
heard that more recently, which with the dopamine and the serotonin, which is
Mhm.
extremely fascinating because I think I was under the assumption it was more of a brain function or a release
Me
of the
too.
I pituitary or something along those lines. But it actually logically, I would say logically, or my instinct or my gut feeling on that is actually it would be produced more into the gut region, into intestinal and the kidneys and the liver, and there's a lot more.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff going on there. There's a big party in the belly. There's a lot happening, but it makes
Right.
sense where the chemical production and
Mhm.
distribution and response, even if it isn't produced there, but the distribution is all there. That's where it's
Mhm.
coming. So
Mhm. Yeah,
fascinating. Yeah.
it
So
is.
awesome. Heather, thank you so much for joining. I know that I feel like we didn't cover everything.
No, I know,
We
it went by
covered
so
a ton.
fast.
I love it. Thank you again. And where can people find you? You have the website and you have your Instagram or your social media.
Yeah, so I am on, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I'm currently having a website built, but,
Is it all just your
uh
name? Is it Heather
yeah, it's
Krueger?
just my name, Heather Krueger, Krueger, like
Okay.
of Freddy Krueger.
Nice.
I always
Maybe we
get
can
that
work in a
one, so,
different association. I love it. All right. So awesome.
but
Thank you again for joining me.
thank thank you so much for having me, I so appreciated this.
Perfect.
Thank you.